I never thought a mailbox could spark a full-on war in my neighborhood. But then again, I'd never dealt with Karen from the HOA. She said my mailbox was a community eyesore. Next thing I know, I'm getting threats, fines, and letters. Almost daily. I tried to stay calm. I tried to be civil. But when Karen took it too far, let's just say, I made sure she regretted ever touching my mailbox. This isn't just a story about one angry neighbor. It's about what happens when power trips go unchecked. And trust me, you're going to love how this ends. Before we dive in, if you've ever dealt with HOA drama, or just love seeing Karens get what they deserve, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon. We've got plenty more stories like this one that you don't want to miss. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I moved into this neighborhood thinking it would be quiet, peaceful, and full of friendly faces. The lawns were neat, the streets were clean, and everything looked perfect. Almost too perfect. But I didn't know that behind all that perfection was an HOA board, and at the center of it, a woman named Karen, who made it her mission to enforce every rule like her life depended on it. She wasn't just a neighbor. She was the self-appointed guardian of the guidelines. One morning, I opened my door and found a letter taped right to my front window. No envelope, no stamp, just bold red ink at the top that read, HOA violation notice. I was confused. I'd only lived here a few months. I hadn't thrown any wild parties. I kept my yard clean. I didn't even own a dog. Then I saw it. Mailbox does not meet HOA aesthetic standards. Immediate correction required. I blinked. My mailbox? It was a simple, black metal mailbox with a little red flag. Nothing fancy, nothing broken. I thought, it had to be a mistake. So I reached out to the HOA and asked for clarification. That's when I got my first taste of Karen's charm. She emailed me back almost instantly, with a screenshot of a design standard buried deep in the HOA rulebook. She ended the message with, "We expect full compliance within 7 days, or fines will begin." No greeting, no smiley face, just threats. Still, I figured this was just a one-time thing. Maybe she was just having a bad day. So I politely wrote back, asking if there was a grace period or even a community meeting where I could get clarity. She responded, "The mailbox is unacceptable. Fix it or face the consequences." That's when I knew I wasn't just dealing with an HOA. I was dealing with Karen's kingdom. And this was just the beginning. I thought the first warning was just a slap on the wrist. But with Karen, every small issue became a full-blown investigation. A few days after the mailbox notice, I got another letter. This time, it wasn't taped to my door. It was stuffed inside my mailbox. It read, "Second violation. Failure to comply. Daily fines of $25 will begin immediately." What? It had barely been a week. And now she was threatening daily fines? I walked out to inspect the mailbox again. Still there. Still fine. No rust. No graffiti. Nothing offensive. But apparently, according to Karen, it didn't match the neighborhood's classic colonial charm. I talked to my next-door neighbor, Dave. He laughed and said, "Yeah, she does this to everyone. Last year she fined me for planting the wrong color. Flowers." It wasn't about the mailbox. It was about control. That week, things got worse. Karen started snapping photos of my property from across the street. She called the HOA board meeting and put my mailbox on the official agenda. Neighbors began whispering, I could feel the tension, and then, just when I thought it couldn't get pettier, she posted my violation in the community Facebook group. With pictures, public shaming, over a mailbox. People started commenting. Some defended her, others rolled their eyes, but the damage was done. I was now that guy with the unacceptable mailbox, and it didn't stop there. Karen left sticky notes on my trash bin. She reminded me that I had 24 hours to bring them in after collection day. She even filed a complaint because my grass was half an inch too long. It felt personal now. I wasn't just getting notices. I was being targeted. And all because I didn't cave in to her first demand. But here's the thing Karen didn't know. While she was busy building her case against me, I was quietly building mine. I'm not the kind of person who likes drama, but when someone pushes me this hard over something so ridiculous, I push back. The next morning, I sat down with a cup of coffee and pulled out the HOA handbook, the same one Karen quoted from. Let me tell you, this thing was a monster. Over 100 pages of dense, boring legal text. But buried in that mess, I found gold. First, there was no specific rule requiring mailboxes to match a particular design. It only said they should be well-maintained and not obstructive. Mine? Check and check. Second, I found something even better. There was a clause that said, all complaints must be reviewed and approved by the full HOA board before enforcement begins. Guess what? No one on the board had signed off on my violations. Karen had been acting completely alone. That's when I realized she wasn't just annoying. She was breaking the rules she claimed to protect. So I did what any smart, quiet neighbor would do. I documented everything. I took photos of my mailbox from every angle, screenshots of every message she sent me, copies of the letters, even timestamps of her taking photos of my house. But I didn't stop there. I started walking around the neighborhood, and what I saw made my jaw drop. Karen's own mailbox, completely different from the approved design she wanted me to. Follow. She had decorative stickers on it, a crooked flag, and the paint was peeling. She also had solar lights in her front yard, which, according to the handbook, were technically non-compliant. Oh, and her trash bin? It sat in plain view every single day, a violation she fined others for. It was the classic rules for you, not for me situation. I gathered it all into a neat little folder and submitted an official complaint, with proof, to the full HOA board. No emotions, no threats. Just facts, and then I waited. Karen had no idea what was coming. A week later, I received a letter in the mail, an actual stamped letter this time. It was from the HOA board, not Karen. The message was short but powerful. We have reviewed your complaint. A special meeting has been scheduled to address recent conduct concerns. You are invited to attend and present your findings. This wasn't just an email chain anymore. It was real, official, serious. I walked into that meeting feeling nervous but ready. The room was filled with a few board members, a couple of other residents, and right in the center, Karen, arms crossed, face tight. I stayed calm, pulled out my folder, presented my photos, emails, screenshots, and HOA handbook quotes. When I showed the comparison between my mailbox and Karen's, the room went silent. Then one board member looked up and said, "Karen, why was this homeowner fined without board approval?" She stammered. Tried to redirect. Claimed it was urgent enforcement. But then another board member asked, "And why are there multiple violations at your own property?" Her face turned red. The board didn't yell, they didn't argue. They just nodded, and then politely asked Karen to step outside. 15 minutes later, she was called back in. The verdict? All my fines were canceled. The mailbox issue was dismissed. And Karen was officially removed from her enforcement role. She wasn't fired from the board, but she lost all her power to issue violations. Basically, she went from Queen Bee to just another neighbor. No more threats, no more notes, no more nonsense. The HOA even apologized for the stress and inconvenience I experienced. But the best part? A few days later, Karen had a brand new mailbox, perfectly compliant, almost identical to mine. Poetic justice. Looking back, this wasn't just about a mailbox. It was about standing up for yourself when someone crosses the line. Karen used rules as a weapon. She counted on people being too quiet, too tired, or too scared to push back. But here's the truth. Bullies don't always come with fists. They come with clipboards, rulebooks, and fake authority. And if you don't call them out, they get bolder. This experience taught me a few big lessons. Read the rules. Know what applies and what doesn't. Document everything. Screenshots, photos, dates. Those things matter more than opinions. Don't lose your cool. Karen expected me to snap or break a rule she could use. I didn't give her the satisfaction. Never assume someone has real power just because they act like it. The moment you start asking questions, people like Karen panic. So if you're dealing with someone like that, stay calm, stay smart, and fight back the right way. Because sometimes the smallest battles lead to the biggest wins, and in this case, the mailbox stayed, the fines disappeared. And Karen, she finally got a taste of her own rules.